This is the Tacx Fortius Multiplayer, and essentially what it is a bicycle stand you can see on the ground there, along with some software that allows you to ride in sort of video game environments or even actual real-life videos that they've shot around the world in famous places where people like to ride their bikes. So I wanted to give a quick overview of the way that this works. You've kind of got the standard lock-in back here where you can set up your rear wheel, and it actually comes with a quick release skewer that goes through, so you don't have to worry about messing up yours. And it's a little bit sort of larger on the end, and that allows it to rest in this cradle. So you just twist this and it locks the rear wheel in. I've actually put one of their special blue sort of tougher rubber tires on my bike, and it's also a really sort of like narrow tire. But essentially this is supposed to wear out less slowly and sort of save your real bicycling tires, and I guess it also sort of matches, which is kind of cool. Back here you've got the little motor on this particular Tacx stand. This is the Multiplayer Fortius. It's got more than just sort of a magnetic brake. It actually has a motor in there that spins up and helps to keep your momentum while you're playing the game. So if you stop pedaling for a few seconds, it's not just going to go, it's kind of keeps it going, which simulates the sense of riding and coasting down hills, that kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. And you can see, because I'm actually using a road bike that has disc brakes back here, my wheel is kind of like off to the side a little bit, and it still works pretty well on this back piece of metal. Essentially, you just kind of want to line it up there, and there's this sort of lever here that pushes it into the tire. On the front, but this particular model, you have to take off your front wheel, and then you can mount it to this sort of rod coming out here, and it actually has sensors that give feedback to the computer that you're turning your bike, and so that comes through while you're playing the game, which is really neat. Now up here you've got kind of a basic navigation kind of controller system, so while you're riding your bike you can hit cancel or enter, and you can navigate the different menus on screen, which is pretty sweet. And then this right here is a sweat drip band, so if you're riding hard and you're sweating, it won't get on your bike, which is nice. It kind of helps to maintain the fit and finish of your bike. So what I was going to show here is the Tacx Trainer 4 software, and this is one of their newer versions. They go way back to there's several versions, and this is one that actually has better graphics, and you can go out and ride in the real world and then bring in your Google Maps data and simulate the ride you had outside, and again you can run these different videos. So here we go, we're all booted up. By the way, I've heard from some people that the software can be a little bit finicky, and that you should try to have a laptop that has a graphics card or is a little bit higher end. I'm running Windows 7, and I think their software has been getting better over the years. So I'm going to pull up the virtual reality, and you can actually just pick any of these different places here. I kind of like the city, but you've got these different areas in France, or sort of simulated like Italy. So here we go. Metropolitan, next. Now, in addition to sort of sensing your wheel spinning in the back through that brake motor, there's also a cadence sensor that rubber bands onto your left crank, and also your chain stays back here. So this program has multiple inputs to sort of simulate riding. Just go with this one. These are just sort of different routes. I'll say start training. And essentially it's going to load that program, and then I'm going to go ahead and mount this and pedal along and kind of show you what that looks like. And one of the other cool features about this is you can sort of turn up or down the resistance by... Oh, okay, it's going to want me to... Okay, So I'm pedaling, and you can see I'm steering. There we go. Or you can just sort of like do nothing, and then your guy will just sort of coast and bump into the walls or whatever. Pretty cool. The thing is, I guess, one complaint I have is that, I can be riding really fast, and I can even switch gears, and it just doesn't feel like you go that much faster in the game. My guy, it's not that thrilling. Maybe this is true to life here, in that, you're on a bicycle, you're not going super fast, but in some of the other stages, there's like these big downhills and stuff, and it would just be cooler and more fun, especially from a video game standpoint, if it felt like you were going down a huge hill, you were going faster. For those of you familiar with video games, there's this one called Burnout. Well, it's actually a series, and there's Burnout 3 is one of my favorites. And it's a race car game, but it's not so realistic that, they're limiting your speed. It's not like Gran Turismo or something. And it ends up being a whole lot more fun. So it'd be kind of nice if Tacx did that. Okay, I'm not going to save this. I'm going to pull up another route for you. I'm going to show you the real-life training. Oops. Close. There we go. So, let's see. That was virtual reality here. I'm going to go to the Tacx films, of which I have a few. This is the Dordogne Valley Cycle Tour. Okay, and you can see here sort of what to expect as you're riding. This is a pretty long ride. It's like 75 kilometers. And down here in the settings, this is what I was talking about earlier, where I can kind of make this easier for myself in power mode. Basically, that's the bike powering with me. I'll do 120. And I actually was already riding on this, so I'm going to say yes. I want to start from where I left off. Okay. And I start cycling, and you can see the video basically plays as I'm cycling, and if I go faster, the video goes a little bit faster, not a lot, and even though this is sort of a stationary film, you can still do a little bit of turning with this handlebar setup, and it sort of bobs the camera left and right. I'm actually turning right now. Do you see the camera? So, here we go. I'm going downhill, and this is an example of the wheel. That's the motor keeping the wheel going for me in the back, so that's the coasting sensation I was talking about before. But if you don't pedal for a little bit, this warning comes up and says, no cadence detected, and I guess that's a safety feature. So there it comes again because I stopped pedaling, and essentially it slows me down and pauses the game. And then if you start again, the game starts back up. So that's kind of it. That's the setup. Whew. I'm going to go ahead and do a shot so you can see what it looks like with me pedaling. There we go. So that's it. Again, this is a Tacx virtual trainer. They have several models, and there's one that has, you don't have to take the front wheel off. There's just kind of like a plate on the ground that swivels. It's a fairly expensive toy, I guess, one that's good for your health, gives you an opportunity to ride if it's too hot out or too cold or something like that. And, it really is geared towards being more realistic in nature, and I think it could be a little bit more fun. It's also very expensive. It takes up some space, but really interesting to think about the future of sort of virtual reality and fitness and those kinds of things. So Check it out.